fractions on a coordinate plane, and the basic rule you're going to use each time is xy, x times the scale factor, y times the scale factor. And you will be told what that scale factor is, so you will know what to multiply by. With your paper, go ahead and make 4 sections by folding it. And we're going to have 2 examples. So you can make 2 coordinate planes on the right sections as we have been doing so far. Let's start our first example. We're going to use the same shape that we did, that we are using for example 1, that we're going to use it for example 2. So here's ABC. Plot and label these points with your green color on the first example and the second example. After you've plotted the triangle for both examples, we're now going to start example 1. So please write dilate ABC by a scale factor of 1/2. And please write the word fraction and color it with the red and green, highlight it, make it stand out, because every time you're given a scale factor of a fraction, this is the example that you will want to look at. We need to notice that the scale factor is a fraction, and that means that our final image will be smaller because we're multiplying our x and y values by 1/2, or a fraction. So let's write the rule first. And we know we have to write the word rule and then x comma y. And we have our basic formula at the top of your paper, x times scale factor, y times scale factor. And we've been told our scale factor is 1/2. So we'll have x times 1/2 and y times 1/2. And we're going to be able to box that so we know that's our rule. The next thing you're going to do is let's list out our order pairs that we plotted so that we can now use them to get our coordinates. So now we're going to use the coordinates, and we're going to multiply the x and y values by 1/2. So let's go with arrows to show we're going somewhere. And we have A, and look what I've done with this 2 right here. Let me get a pen. This 2, this -2 rather. I made it into a fraction by putting a 1 under it because I'm multiplying it by a fraction. I have to multiply it by 1/2. And then I put a comma so I can do the y value. The y is 4. I have to multiply by a fraction, so I need to make 4 into a fraction by putting a 1 under it. And then we can multiply that by 1/2. Now we can do the same thing to the B and the C by making the x and the y's fractions and multiplying them by 1/2. So this is what B should look like to set our problem up. And this is what C should look like to set our problem. Now we can go ahead and solve them to get our answers. So I'm going to take away the graph so that we have some more room. And notice I've gone ahead and put some arrows at the end of each of these because we know we still have to get our final answer. We know what our final answer is going to look like. And so let's set that up so we can just fill in the blanks. A prime with parentheses, B prime with parentheses, C prime with parentheses. Now we're ready to multiply. So we can multiply fractions going straight across. So this first one right here, -2 times 1 is -2. 1 times 2 is 2. If I simplify that, it equals -1. And that's our x value. Go to the next one. 4 times 1 is 4. 1 times 2 is 2. If I simplify that, it is 2. And that's our A prime values, -1, 2. Then when you multiply for B prime, we have -2 times 1, which is -2. 1 times 2, which is 2. Again, that equals -1. And then we have -1 times 1, -1. 1 times 2, 2, and that equals negative 1/2 or negative 0.5. And you can choose which way you want to put it in your answer because they mean the same thing. So negative 1 and negative 0.5, or you could do the fraction version. For C, 2 times 1 is 2. 1 times 2 is 2. That equals 1. Next one, negative 1 times 1. 1 times 2 is 2. And again, that equals negative 1/2 or negative 0.5, whichever way you would like to show it. So that is our prime answers. And of course, we're going to put a box around it. Now we're ready to plot A prime, B prime, C prime. Remember, we're anticipating that this will be a smaller shape. So let's plot and label our points. I need to skip that page. So here's, looking back at your graph, we have our ordered pairs here. Now we're going to plot them. Go ahead and plot A prime, negative 1, 2. Please plot A prime, negative 1, 2. You're still on the first example. When you did that, you should have plotted here. Make sure you're labeling as you plot. And then B prime, negative 1, negative 1/2. And remember, this could also be written as negative 1/2. And so I would plot negative 1 and then go halfway down, and that's where it would be located. Finally, C prime, 1 and negative 0.5, or you could also have negative 1/2. And again, you plot 1 and then negative 1/2, and it would be located there. And then you can make sure that you have labeled everything, and that would be our final answer for example 1. Now let's do the next example. So for your next example, we're going to dilate by a whole number. Example 2, dilate ABC by a scale factor of 2. Because we're dilating by a whole number this time, it's going to make the shape bigger. So we need to anticipate that for our answer. Let's write the rule. Of course, we have rule x comma y. The next part of the rule, of course, we're multiplying with that scale factor, and it's x times 2, y times 2. And we can put a box around that, because that would be our answer if we're asked to write the rule. Now we're going to set up our problem so that we can find the prime coordinates. And if you notice, when I wrote out A, B, and C coordinates, I kind of spread them out a little bit because I'm going to do some work on this instead of having to do that middle column we had in example 1 where we're showing the multiplication. Because it's a whole number, it's going to be a lot easier. So please write your ordered pairs, spread them out a little bit like this, and then we'll do the multiplication. I'm going to go to this page so that we can have a little bit more room. So we're looking at our ordered pairs, and we're going to multiply each one of them by 2. So to save space, and because multiplying is easy by a whole number, I'm just going to put times 2 in the ordered pairs like this. I might even use a different color so it'll stand out. Times 2, and then times 2 again. Then you just have to multiply. So for A prime, we're going to have negative 4, 8. B prime will be negative 4, 2. And C prime will be 4, negative 2. And now we can box that, of course, and then we're going to plot and label it on our graph. And remember, we are anticipating that it will be a bigger shape. When you plot and label A prime, B prime, C prime, it should look like this, labeled correctly. And at this point, you should be able to do